did the first presentation in several years since COVID times, in-person presentation, and Barry did the Skywarn training. So everybody that was in attendance now is all Skywarn trained up, and we'll talk about that type of special activity that we as amateur radio operators can participate in. And being trained really helps because, again, he told us, hey, look, when you're reporting the weather event, this is what we're looking for. So, tell you what, Barry and I spent about 10 minutes talking after the session was over. So, again, thank you, Barry, for your time. I know it's cutting into your afternoon, but I do appreciate it. And let's take a listen to Barry Goldsmith of the National Weather Service. Welcome. Thank you for taking this time after your presentation, an awesome presentation. If you don't mind, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your presentation today.
So my name is Barry Goldsmith. I'm the Warning Coordination Meteorologist at the National Weather Service Brownsville, Rio Grande Valley office. The position is basically one who does customer service and public relations with core partners that work in public safety. I've been here in the Valley since November 2007, so I'm working on my 18th year here. And today's presentation was Skywarn spotter training. And Skywarn spotters, of which amateur radio is a big part, even a founding part of the organization of Skywarn, allows citizen science to be done with people that are observing the weather as it happens and reporting it back to our station in East Brownsville so that we can monitor our warning situation, understand what's happening on the ground, and even improve the lead time of downstream warnings.
Nice, very good. All right, well, that was going to be my next question, but the question that follows up behind it is what can those that are not licensed amateur radio operators do to participate with Skywarn?
So we took a bit of a break with COVID and beyond, and we're doing more virtual, not just because of COVID, because it can be easier to connect with people when they might not be able to travel, or we may not be able to travel out. But we'll also do some in-person courses as well. So we tend to get people that are weather enthusiasts from the public, and they're the best ones because we know that they're going to report and effectively report. Other people that are just dragged there may not report or report at all, so it becomes a bit of a loss leader at that point. So we'd rather have people interested come. But in addition to amateur radio, our next level of importance would be folks that are in law enforcement, emergency management, public safety overall. They have a need to know what's going on out there, and when they're out there in the field, whether they're saving lives from fires or on the streets policing them, or they're working the overarching emergency management infrastructure, they are seeing what the weather can do and how people may need to prepare, and spotting the weather can help them understand what's really going on the ground when these warnings come out, and then learning how to apply that to keeping themselves safe when they're out there in the field, but also keeping their families safe and learning enough about it so that they can help make decisions when bad weather is forecast to keep the community safe.
And I heard you mention earlier during the presentation, but again, just clarification, to be on the Skywarn spotter network, is there a certain period and then you got to recertify, or you got to retest, you got to re-educate? Is there something?
We've had for years a 3-year certification process. We're probably going to expand that to 4, maybe make it unlimited. It all depends, because what we found is that return spotters that were getting recertified were relatively few compared to how many we trained. We don't want to let people just drop off the database, especially today when there's so many avenues for people to report information through apps and through social media and through chat rooms and things like that. We want to use that to our advantage. So the idea of traditional Skywarn spotter classes is changing for the majority of folks that we train, but it's still very important with our core of our core, and amateur radio operators are that core, to still be able to go in person or virtual and still have that certification process with a time frame. So we'll be looking into how we do the time frame in the future as we're bringing this back online, both physically and virtually.
Alrighty. So for those that are spotters right now, what can they do? Again, this is for those that are. What can they do to keep their knowledge base up and their skills up to date? between certification periods?
So first would be to review everything that's been handed out, either physically or online. We have a Skywarn page. There's also some courses that are available. I think there's a national Skywarn page as well that will show people places to go to relearn a few things. And they can always be in our rooms and social media especially, but also call us on the phone and can, review things with our forecast staff that they may have kind of let slide. The Rio Grande Valley doesn't get the kind of continuous severe weather, meaning tornadoes, windstorms, hail, flooding rain, as often as places like Oklahoma and Kansas and North Texas. So it sometimes drops back in terms of the hierarchy of importance for people, including our trained spotters. So if they're thinking about it in that 3-year window, when weather comes in, remember all the tricks of the trade that we teach at the courses, and give us a call or drop us a line one way or another to do some reviewing if they need to review. Otherwise, remember all they've done and provide the information that we ask for in reporting.
Excellent. About how many spotters do you know, or offhand, how many spotters are here in the Rio Grande Valley right now?
So on our books that we still keep, we have nearly 600. But of those who are active, it's probably a fraction of that, including some that were in the room today from the amateur radio community. Our plan is to build it back, but we're going to build it back a little differently, not necessarily requiring a spotter ID card and necessarily training every 3 years, because as I mentioned before, the fraction of the people that do retrain is a matter of their interest in their lives and what they're seeing. We just want to make sure that we're out there able to manage the database and let people know that things are still happening in that world, and to continue to observe and report information to us. And we'll be using other techniques to do that through some new mailing lists and list servers that we'll be putting online that'll be able to connect directly with spotter lists, so that they get maybe an email or a flyer or something reminding them of the importance of it, particularly as we get into our heavier seasons, such as the severe weather season in spring and our hurricane season and our flood season in summer.
Nice. Now, the next question would be for numbers. You said about 600 in the Rio Grande Valley, millions, quickly moving out to the plural of millions. That's a small drop in the bucket. And as far as number of spotters, the need is across the valley. And we're talking from Starr County, Willacy, Cameron County, all the way across, close to Laredo, Zapata a little bit, Brooks, what are the other ones? Jim Hogg, thank you, that one, and then in Kleberg, right?
We don't serve Kleberg, that's Corpus, but we do Kennedy. There's very few
thank you.
people there, but
Yes.
we do serve Kennedy.
So the needs out there, what areas are lacking spotters?
So we have a good number in the populated counties. We could use some more in Starr and Zapata. We're lacking people that are active in all areas, but like a lot of things in the valley, Cameron, Hidalgo are dominant. But we do have a decent number per capita in Willacy, Starr, and Zapata. Jim Hogg, we signed up quite a few at one point, and even Brooks County, we signed up quite a few, but it's been a long time since we've been there or done it virtually. What we're looking to do more of is kind of combine the traditional spotter courses with town halls on more impact-based communication and risk-based communication, so that people not only understand maybe a little bit about our criteria for warnings, but understand what the impact could do to them and how to be prepared for that impact, which meets our overarching mission for the Weather Service, which is protection of life and property.
I know you mentioned a hurricane workshop. What's next? What's going on with your public outreach right now?
So we work with our partners in cities and towns and counties to meet up with the public that they serve in community town halls. So we don't typically go alone. We'll go with those emergency management coordinators or emergency support functions and work through them. We do host 2 workshops, one for public safety, which is overarching emergency management, and another for our media partners. And in the public safety realm, that includes a number of what's called emergency support functions. So that includes public works, transportation, public health, mass care, law enforcement, firefighting. And there's a few more in there as well. And they're all invited to the table, and we'll do exercises and education where we'll draw over 125 people each year to that particular workshop. And it's an overview. You can really only scratch the surface of all the activities with a hurricane, but it's important to get out there and do this each year as a reminder, and often provide something new to discuss as a group and to educate from us to the group.
Okay. Just to come back around, I was thinking about it. So 600 again right now. Folks, that's not enough. Definitely more can be added on. So if you're sitting on the fence or thinking about it, it's a great thing. Check it out. And we're going to share all of the social media information. Everything will be on the show notes for this episode. Everything will be on the YouTube channel. So be on the lookout for all of that here when this episode drops. Or as you're listening to it right now, it's down below in your show notes. Alrighty. Before we wrap this up, I just want to ask you any something we'd missed, something you were thinking about and I didn't ask. By all means, the floor is yours.
So really what we look at here is citizen science. And it doesn't just have to be a formal Skywarn certification course. It's just the community learning about what could impact them with a scientific perspective so that they know what this is all about. And then they can communicate it broadly out. So a town hall may only draw 25 to 50 people, but they have family, they have friends, they have contacts, and they can then spread the word. Because we'll do this in a plain language format and in an interactive format that gets people thinking about what all this means to them, not just some abstract weather phenomenon like an equation or some terminology. It's more, it's going to rain a lot. Will it flood my house? Mm-hmm. What do I need to know about the situation and how that information is being provided? So we can do that. And that's where we're aiming our focus so that we can spread the word fairly efficiently to communities. We're also doing something over the last decade, but expanding it, called Weather Ready Nation Ambassadors. So you're thinking, well, what's an ambassador versus a Skywarn spotter? An ambassador could be a community, a group, a church, a business, you name it, that subscribes to doing what's necessary with the employees of that unit and their families, and then through that, maybe friends or more employees and families, to build weather readiness, which is people being resilient, ready, and responsive to weather and climate impacts that can happen here in the valley. And it's kind of like President Bush's 1,000 points of light. It's a point of light that becomes a beacon to others to join and understand. And to close out, I always like to say, the more you know, the less you fear. So the more you understand what your personal risk is based on what the weather could be, the less you'll fear once you apply what's necessary to build your resilience so that you can be ready and responsive. And then you're on the front foot when the event comes in rather than on the back foot.
Excellent. Well, Barry, thank you for joining me today, and thank you for taking this time after your presentation, 2 hours of nonstop talking and then another couple of minutes here nonstop talking.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
My voice is pretty shot. So.
All right. Thank you.